Hello, Maddie here. Thank you for coming back for another week, another book, or welcome to my channel for the first time if this is the first video that you're seeing. Over here, we talk about all things books. We rant and we rave and we ramble a lot about books because we love books. And we have this thing called the Maddie Guarantee, which means at the end of my books, no matter what may happen, your main characters, typically your main couple, will be both alive and together. Those are my two promises that will happen. Your couple will be alive and together. This week, we're talking about Unmarriageable by a author's whose name I am totally going to butcher, but the author's name is, it's Soniah Kamal. Okay, that wasn't that hard, just kidding. So it's Unmarriageable by Soniah Kamal. I don't think I've done a full video. I need to double check. I love Jane Austen. We love Pride and Prejudice. Can't remember if I mentioned this, but my husband and I went up to Dallas for Easter and they were doing the 20th anniversary release of the Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice, which my family calls the good parts version because you just get the good parts of the book. And it goes super fast. We were like, I forgot how fast this goes because there's a lot that happens in like such a short amount of time. With that, it's just revamped my just love of Jane Austen and Pride and Prejudice. Specifically, one of my sisters and I are doing a like mini book club together of just rereading Pride and Prejudice together, which is what I'm gonna have to do after I finish filming because today's our deadline we're doing week to week, and today's the day I need to read stuff by. So I've done like half of the reading and I need to finish that after this. Also, I've been wanting to reread some of my favorite Pride and Prejudice adaptations, this being one of them. With that, just way too much information, let's read the synopsis before we keep talking. But now you know that it's a Pride and Prejudice retelling. That will help with the understanding of this book. In this one-of-a-kind retelling of Pride and Prejudice set in a modern-day Pakistan, Alys Bennett has sworn never to marry until an encounter with one Mr. Darcy at a wedding makes her reconsider. A scandal and vicious rumor concerning the Bennett family has destroyed their fortune and prospects for desirable marriages. But Alys, the second and most practical of the 5 Bennett daughters, has found happiness teaching English literature to schoolgirls. Knowing that many of her students won't make it to graduation before dropping out to marry and have children, Alys teaches them about Jane Austen and her literary heroes and hopes to inspire the girls to dream of more. When an invitation arrives to the biggest wedding their small town has seen in years, Mrs. Bennet, certain that their luck is about to change, excitedly sets to work preparing her daughters to fish for rich, eligible bachelors. On the first night of the festivities, Alice's lovely older sister, Jenna, catches the eye of Fahad Bingla, the wildly successful and single entrepreneur. But Bingley's friend, Valentine Darcy, is clearly unimpressed with the Bennet family. Alys accidentally overhears his unflattering assessment of her and quickly dismisses him and his snobbish ways. As the days of lavish wedding parties unfold, the Bennets wait breathlessly to see if Jenna will land a proposal. And Alys begins to realize that Darcy's brusque manner may be hiding a very different man from the one she saw at first glance. Told with wry wit and colorful prose, Unmarriageable is a charming update on Jane Austen's beloved novel and an exhilarating exploration of love, marriage, class, and sisterhood. Many things to say about this book. Not many. A handful. A couple of things. 1, I've read so many adaptations. I've watched so many adaptations of Pride and Prejudice. And there are many, many, many very, very good ones out there. I feel there are definitely some that are better than others. And I'm not saying this is definitely in the higher caliber category of Pride and Prejudice retellings for a couple of reasons. 1, the backdrop of Pakistan makes the kind of rigid rules of engagement of how people interacted, especially people of the opposite sex, not of the same family. It makes those rules make sense. So the author is able to keep a lot of these kind of rigid social expectations in place without it being awkward or uncomfortable or just not make sense for the backdrop of the story. And so that's a really cool thing to be able to take the story, not only put it in the modern day, but to put it in a place that makes circumstances, situations, these exact scenes that take place, it makes them make sense. So I really, really like that they're able to put it in the modern day, but to keep some of those more formal rules of engagement in a way that makes sense without changing the story, without making the story just be completely out of sorts, being like, we wouldn't do that today. I really like that about this story, that they've taken this story and they've kind of truly shown how timeless it is. A couple weeks ago, I went to a Jane Austen event with a good friend of mine, and they had a bunch of little cute stations. And one of the stations was they had this really nice paper and envelopes with, they were fake wax seals that had like stickers on the back. So you could just like stick it on the envelope, which I thought was hilarious because it's like not a real wax seal like at all. But it was like, write a letter to somebody. And they had more specific instructions that I don't remember. But I wrote to one of my sisters, and I started out the letter with, and I think this is a good point, is do you think Jane Austen had any idea how powerful her books would be, how widespread they would be, how many freaking adaptations there would be? My sister actually responded to my letter, and she said, the fact that you can write a Pride and Prejudice adaptation and that in and of itself can be like a bestseller is wild. That Pride and Prejudice is such a staple of a story, that these characters are so beloved and well known and cherished, that you can take this story, redo it in a different setting, different whatever, and still that adaptation to do so well is crazy and so cool, and just shows the power of this story. And so that goes back into, I love that we have this modern retelling in a totally, I don't want to say random, but like a just totally different country than England, that Jane Austen maybe had never even heard of. Did it even exist then? I don't know. But this place, this setting that Jane Austen never could have fathomed, that her story is so impactful that it made it that far, and it made its way into this whole other book that is so beautiful and incredible and impactful in its own way. Do you think she had any idea that would happen? How incredible that is? And I know we have all these stories that we also know and love. We've got Shakespeare and Dickens, the Bronte sisters. But I personally I love Jane Austen. I love her works, and I love getting to read adaptations. I love getting to watch adaptations because I love it so much. And I just always want more and more and more of it and more of her. This book just does such a good job. It's like you're wanting more Pride and Prejudice. This is such a good book because it is its own work in that it's still slightly different because it is set in a different era, in a different country. While their formality may look similar, it is for different reasons. It shows itself in different ways, the rules of engagement them in and of themselves. So it's still Pride and Prejudice, and it is still very much its own story. If you know Pride and Prejudice, you'll know kind of how it's going to progress, but it's still very different. The circumstances are different. The way that it presents itself is different. So that's what makes this book worth reading, as opposed to just being like, oh, it's just the same story again. It's like it is and it isn't, because you're getting different families, you're getting different backdrops, you're getting different circumstances, you're getting different rules of etiquette. It makes a story its own unique thing, which I love. And the kind of main thing off that, which I just love, because this book, it does hold very true to its source material. What I love is the lengths this author goes to have the names sound the same. They look super different, okay? The names look wildly different, but the understanding is that they're supposed to sound the same. So Bennett in the original is B-E-N-N-E-T. In this, it's B-I-N-A-T. But it's in theory pronounced the same. It might be more like Bennett instead of Bennett, but it's very similar. And so it's things like that. And Darcy is the most creative one in my opinion, because you get Alys instead of Lizzie or Eliza. That's the most different, which I find slightly ironic that the main character has the most different name. But she does her best to translate these into actual Pakistani names that are things that actually exist and not just completely made up. It's so creative. And for me, it's that further stamp of this is Pride and Prejudice, but not. Like it is and it isn't all at the same time. And for me, that's just like part of that piece. And I loved reading the names as I was going throughout. And I did lots of like looking at the name and then like verbally saying the name to be like, how close is that? But the Darcy one is my favorite because so his name is Darcy. Although you get Valentine instead of Fitzwilliam, which is like, how are you going to get Fitzwilliam? And that's just not going to work. But the last name is Darcy, but it's Darsee. And like, it's so close, but it fits. And I love it. And I think it's so clever and absolutely fantastic. If you're a lover of Pride and Prejudice, this is a great, great adaptation. If you've never read Pride and Prejudice, you should read Pride and Prejudice. And then you should read this book because it's a great adaptation. Or if you have no desire to read Pride and Prejudice because maybe you just don't want to, I would still very much recommend this book because it's so good in its own right. And I think that's what makes it such a good book, is because it's not just like, oh, it's just the same book again. It's like, it's still its own book. It is still this author didn't just copy and paste. She had to adapt and rethink and reimagine how she was going to make this story unfold in a way that made sense for the setting, for the family, for the circumstances, for the relationships. She had to rethink those things and how it was going to play itself out in this setting. And I love that. I think it is so clever. It is so well done. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. I feel like that's all I've been saying for this whole gosh darn video. It's so good. And I want more people to read it because I feel like it's one of the adaptations I haven't heard people talk about as much. To be fair, I mostly talk with my family, specifically my sisters, about these things. And I think one of my sisters is actually the one that recommended it to me. So that's its own thing, I guess. I wish we talked more about well done adaptations. So maybe I'll do some more of that here. I love books that can take really good sources and redo them. And I have some of those. Like I have Dear Mr. Knightley, which is a retelling of Dear Daddy Longlegs, which is a very good book. It's one of my all-time favorite books, the Dear Mr. Knightley. I do like Dear Daddy Longlegs, but it's not, in my opinion, I like Dear Mr. Knightley better. I haven't done a video on it, but on one of my list of videos to do is for Beastly, which is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, which is really, really good. I know I have others. I love when people can take really good source material, but very much make it their own. And that's what makes a good adaptation. I've already said it, but it's taking good source material, making it their own, and making it its own compelling version of the story. And I feel like Soniah does that very well. Hopefully I'm saying her name right. I think I am. I hope I am. If I'm saying it wrong, let me know, I guess. That's what I have for this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. All those things are super awesome, super helpful, because I've been doing this for a while now, and I would like to continue to see this channel grow. Will continue like it's been growing. I like to see this channel grow because that would be really cool, and that'd be a lot of fun just to be able to get this out to more people. So if you did that would be super awesome. Share this video if you want someone else to hear rants about Pride and Prejudice retellings, or maybe go look at some of my other videos because I have some other really cool videos. I have quite a few of them on my channel, so there's lots of stuff to go look at. If Pride and Prejudice isn't your cup of tea, there's lots of other things on there. So thank you for being here. And with all of that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope you have a great night, a great week, great weekend, great month, great year. I hope you have all the greats because you're truly worthy and deserving of them. So until next time, 再见.